Hello, my royal lovelies. Welcome back to the channel, and of course, welcome to my home. A bit of a different video today, and I bring you the news that has broken only 10 minutes ago at the point of making this video, that the King Charles III, has been diagnosed with cancer. So I'm going to go into all the details that we know at present. There has been an official statement released, so I think we'll start with that, and then we will discuss everything. So, this is a royal communication, a statement from Buckingham Palace, which says, during the King's recent hospital procedure for benign prostate enlargement, a separate issue of concern was noted. Subsequent diagnostic tests have identified a form of cancer. His Majesty has today commenced a schedule of regular treatments, during which time he has been advised by doctors to postpone public-facing duties throughout this period. His Majesty will continue to undertake state business and official paperwork as usual. The King is grateful to his medical team for their swift intervention, which was made possible thanks to his recent hospital procedure. He remains wholly positive about his treatment and looks forward to returning to full public duty as soon as possible. His Majesty has chosen to share his diagnosis to prevent speculation and in the hope it will assist public understanding for all those around the world who are affected by cancer. And that is not lost because it is World Cancer Day today. The Queen has been active, and of course the Queen has been taking up so much slack since, of course, the King went in for a benign prostate surgery, and of course the Princess of Wales is out of action too. So this is huge news for the royal family. I want to go back to the statement and kind of break it down paragraph by paragraph and discuss it. So, we know that from the first statement that this is not to do with the prostate. It is something that they found at the time of doing the operation. So whether or not the King came to them, as most men do, a lot of men put off talking about their medical issues. So, you know, a lot of men, when they're in the surgery, rather than just talking about one issue when they're seeing a doctor, they might suddenly say, oh, well, and have you know, I've got this wrong with me, or I've got that wrong with me. Perhaps something similar happened with the King. Perhaps he was kind of sitting on a medical issue. And of course, even as Prince of Wales, when Charles was Prince of Wales, and as King, he will have had access to the best medical treatments and doctors that money can buy. So it's not because he's not had sort of, lack of medical care. I think this is just an issue that may have presented itself, that he may have disclosed, that then they sort of looked into, or it could have been something that was picked up on a scan, or something to do with the biopsy of the benign prostate issue. It could even have been that he had a blood test, and the blood test could have picked up kind of cancerous levels in the body, which then may have led to further investigations. But what we do know is it's not related to the prostate. He's undergoing a schedule of regular treatment. That sounds like, I suppose, maybe typical chemotherapy or radiotherapy, one or the other, or maybe a combination of both. Who knows at this stage? He's postponing his public duties, so that he really will be out of action for a longer period of time, which then puts a lot more pressure on the Prince of Wales, Prince William, to kind of fulfill those duties, Her Majesty the Queen as well. And let's face it, Her Majesty the Queen has stepped up enormously since becoming Queen. Camilla is most definitely doing her duty. She is supporting her family. She is supporting the nation. She's doing incredibly well. So I think that is really important to note. Princess Anne, Prince Edward, all of the working royals will unite. They will pull together to get everything done. Now, it's understood, I've heard sort of early whispers that the king will still be able to attend to, you know, the red boxes that keep coming in, the official paperwork. So whenever there is sort of government correspondence that he needs to sign or he needs to read, it's expected at this point that he will be able to continue with that. So we are not expected to need, you know, full councillors of state being engaged. There may be certain occasions in the future where that may be a possibility, but the Queen, Queen Camilla, can fulfil a lot of those duties should she be required to do so. If the king, for example, you know, if his condition takes a different turn. Fingers crossed that it does not. But there are provisions in place, and the list of councillors of state was updated to include the Princess Royal, Princess Anne, and Prince Edward, the new Duke of Edinburgh. I've already heard some actual newsreaders get this wrong. So I don't expect, if ever there was an occasion where it called for it, that, for example, Prince Harry, who remains a Councillor of State, and Prince Andrew, who remains a Councillor of State, would be called up. I imagine, obviously because of Prince Andrew's current situation and Prince Harry being absent from the UK, I don't think they would ever go there, even though they are technically further up the line of succession than Princess Anne and Prince Edward. I think the port of call is going to be Her Majesty the Queen, then obviously the Princess of Wales is out of action. But Prince William, I think when he returns to full duties, which I think he will do very, very soon owing to the new circumstances, and then if need be, Princess Anne and Prince Edward. I don't think we are going to see Prince Harry being called upon, although, you know, there is the possibility that Prince Harry could make himself resident. Perhaps he could forego his security concerns and come back to the UK. We'd have to see how that one would work out, seeing as he doesn't have anywhere to go to, unless, of course, something was opened up. One does wonder how Prince Harry and Meghan are reacting to this news. And also, sometimes it takes these kind of medical emergencies to kind of break down those barriers to communication. So the mind boggles as to what exactly is going on behind the scenes. I would imagine that all of the family that need to know would have been informed before the public announcement went out, although we do know from the past that previous medical announcements were broadcast and certain people were not informed, or rather they claim that they were not informed. So the mind does wonder about that. So His Majesty will continue to undertake state business and official paperwork as usual. So no call yet for councillors of state, but as I've just explained, they are in place and they do not have to call upon Prince Harry or Prince Andrew should the need arise. The King is grateful to his medical team for their swift intervention. So that suggests to me on a second read that it was kind of spotted, I think, which was made possible thanks to his recent hospital procedure. He remains wholly positive about his treatment, and I have heard early whispers that the palace is really positive about his treatment. Could that potentially be a little bit of PR spin coming at the moment to alleviate public concern? Possibly. We have seen something very, very similar with Catherine, the Princess of Wales. We have heard Spanish reports. Now, I was going to make a video tomorrow. This has actually hastened my speaking about this, but we do have to address the Spanish media claims that came out of one journalist who stands vehemently by her source, who she says is a palace source. So although we do have to take claims with a pinch of salt, what we also need to do is not just completely ignore things, and we need to talk about things when they are actually coming out. So the Spanish media claim is that Catherine was put in an induced coma following her operation, and that there's something a lot more serious of a nature to it. Now, I think this is an important story to look at, purely because I think the length of stay in hospital, the recuperation period, does suggest something a little bit more serious than a planned normal routine. Of course, there are planned, abdominal surgeries, which is obviously a very vague claim, which can take that length of time. But there are some procedures where, you may, for the body to recover, you may have had to have been put into an induced coma, which may explain the length of time in hospital. Obviously, these are just claims. This is just speculation. It's media speculation. But sometimes when there have been stringent palace denials, especially regarding matters of this nature, it has sometimes pointed to, the fact that there was a little finger that was actually pointing quite close, and, maybe there was a glimmer of truth in it. So I think that's something worth talking about, and I will touch on that more in future videos. But I do want to get back to the king. Now, I'm just going to refresh the page that I'm reading from, just in case anything has come out. We did see the king at Sandringham. Many people, thought maybe he would have gone to Windsor. The last we heard, he'd left hospital for the benign prostate operation, and he'd spent a night in Clarence House. I thought, personally, that he may go to Highgrove to recover, but he did in fact go to Sandringham. And of course, we saw the king at church, and I actually thought from the photographs that he looked pretty well. He was waving and smiling. So certainly, I think perhaps by that point he would have known about his conditions. So it certainly wasn't showing on his face. So he has now returned to London from Sandringham to begin treatment immediately. So, like I said before, he will have the best healthcare possible. No waiting lists. In the UK, normally pretty good when it comes to this sort of thing to get in there quick, but treatment started immediately. Again, not connected to his recent prostate surgery. Okay, now of course, I think what we do need to touch on in matters of this nature. Now, I hope that we never get to this point, but we do have to touch on the succession. Now, in the United Kingdom, it's, the line of succession really does work. It does embed that continuity, and we know where it's going. If something untoward were to happen to the king, which we don't expect it to at this stage, but if there was, then it would obviously go to William, who is the heir to the throne. He would become, we think, King William, and obviously his consort, Queen, would be Catherine. But I just think it's important to note the difference between the way that King Charles is approaching illness diagnosis and the media compared to the older generation that went before, for example, Queen Elizabeth II, the Queen Mother, the Duke of Edinburgh, who kept everything very, very private. Obviously, we're seeing a lot of privacy surrounding the Princess of Wales, but the King has made very conscious decisions to talk about the prostate surgery, now to talk about his cancer diagnosis. We are seeing a lot more openness from this new reign compared to previous generations. I think also it stops that speculation. I think the media would obviously perhaps have found out about it. There would be, if the king was down for longer than expected, people would, of course, speculate on exactly what was wrong with him. So I think this is a new and welcomed approach to medical diagnosis, being open, being honest. It allows the king to, I don't want to say share his experience, because it's not something particularly fun to share, but it allows people to go on a journey with him, and it breaks down those barriers. It opens those doors of conversation. Will we eventually get to know what form of cancer it is? I don't know. It depends at what point the king may or may not feel comfortable talking about it. It would help if we kind of knew what form it was, because it would then open further channels of communication for the king to be open and to support charities and to support people going through, or in the future that might go through a similar situation. It might also raise specific awareness of whatever the underlying sort of cause, if you like, is from the cancer. So I don't know. At this stage, I don't know whether or not we will see any further information being given. The king's diagnosis will pose serious questions for the working of the monarchy, with fewer working members of the royal family and the Princess of Wales out of action. I've touched on this many, many, many times. The royal family has been slimmed down too much. We've had a little bit of natural wastage, we've had a little bit of forced wastage, and it's too small. I mean, I am going to call it now. It is too small. I think when King Charles, as Prince of Wales, first had this notion of having a slimmed down royal family, in practice, in theory, it kind of worked. It alluded to more kind of austere times where, the monarchy could really be kind of cost effective, slim it down. But in working practice, it's gone too far. And the king hasn't really had to do anything. I do think we need to bring in some more working royals. I think Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie would be perfect. I also think that Zara and Mike would be really good members to bring in too. Lady Louise, James Viscount 7. Lady Louise is still undergoing her education. James Viscount 7, the same. Obviously a few years younger as well. So I don't think they're quite ready. And of course the Wales children are far from being ready to take on royal engagements. So I do think as an intermediary step, I think Beatrice and Eugenie would be perfect, along with the support of Zara and Mike, who could also be given titles via letters patent. Obviously there is Peter Phillips as well, but he's a little bit lesser known than I think Zara and Mike, so it kind of makes more sense to go in that direction. But I do think that the monarchy is in safe hands. If the worst were to come, then we know where it's going to go, and we know that it would be in safe hands. But it is still a worry, and it is still a concern with the Princess of Wales still being down and out of action, and we, the people, not knowing exactly what is wrong with her. I think the king made a good step in saying what his diagnosis was. Obviously, we had the denial of cancer from the Wales camp with regards to Catherine, so there's no reason to disbelieve that, although, as I've said before, I do think that the condition or the operation was a lot more serious than what we were being led to believe, or what they would like us to believe. So I do think it's a lot more serious. But at the moment, there is nothing coming out to allude to anything more serious. So the Prince of Wales is coming back to royal duty. Kensington Palace announced earlier today that he would resume public duties this week by conducting an investiture on Wednesday at Windsor Castle. So all eyes will be on Prince William, followed by a gala fundraising event for the London Air Ambulance in the evening. So he most definitely will be back to full royal duties. William and Catherine obviously are still based at Kensington Palace, London, in terms of their official office, but of course they live at Windsor. So yes, that is where we're up to now. If any further news comes out, of course I will bring it to you, but I don't expect there to be anything out over the next 24 hours, other than perhaps maybe the king is doing well, or the king remains in good spirits, but he is undergoing that treatment, which, like I say, could, depending on the cancer, could be chemo, could be radiotherapy. I don't think it sounds like it's going to take any further surgery, by the sounds of it. So, you know, fingers crossed that everything is going well, and we wish His Majesty a very, very, very speedy as possible recovery. So thank you for watching this video. I'm not going to say if you've enjoyed it, but please give it a like. It boosts the video so that more people get the accurate and truthful news as it happens. Feel free to leave a comment, and of course, you know, you never know who's watching. Leave your comments of support for His Majesty. So until next time, from me, mwah, to you all, and goodbye.